Good morning, all, and good evening to international participants. A very warm welcome to everyone. Thank you all for finding time and visiting our today's international webinar. I, Pooja Mervanki, Professor, Kheli Society's Rajalakshmigowda Science Institute Autonomous Belagavi, extend a gracious and inclusive welcome on behalf of our institution. I am profusely honored and privileged to take this opportunity to welcome our resource person of the day, Ashok Maktoum sir, Director, R&D Mobile Network Solutions, Yana Solutions, San Jose, California, US. I also like to make an important note. In fact, I am glad to announce that Sir is alumnus of our esteemed institution as he has pursued his PUC from our college. What can be happier moment than having an alumnus as a resource person? We cherish this moment and it's a great pleasure to have you on board, sir. Welcome. I also welcome our beloved principal, Dr. Srimati J.S. Kaureka, Madam, Life Member of KLE, Professor S.C. Nanjapnawar, Sir, IQAC Coordinator and Life Member of KLE, Dr. Satisha MP, Sir, Head of the Department of Computer Science and Coordinator, Srimati P.C. Kamath, Madam, Convener, Srimati S.P. Hidamat, Madam, Host for the day, Dr. Vinay Kumar M. Sir, faculty members, and all my dear participants. I welcome you all to our international webinar on AI and machine learning, emerging trends and applications organized by Department of Computer Science in association with IQAC. We are very happy to share that we have received the registrations from various countries such as Australia, USA, Germany, Myanmar, UAE, Tanzania, and Sudan. Glad to have you all. Thank you for joining. I have few housekeeping notes to make before we start with the program. Firstly, I would like to seek your cooperation in completing this webinar. Kindly switch off microphone and webcam so that no disturbance is caused during conduct. And if you have any questions or clarification to be raised, please put the same in the comment section or chat box. The same will be taken during interactive session and will be answered by the source person itself. Thank you. And now to begin with, I request our principal, Dr. Srimati J.S. Kaulekar, Madam, to take over the platform and address the audience. Over to you, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone. It really gives me an immense pleasure to welcome you all to the national webinar on artificial intelligence and machine learning, emerging trends and applications, organized by the Department of Computer Science in association with IQAC of Kiyali Society's Raja Lakhamgowda Science Institute, Autonomous, Belagavi. The Kiyali Society was established on 13th November 1916 by 7 great aspirants of education called Saptarashis. And since more than 10 decades, the Kiyali Society is playing a vital role in the academic and socio-economic upliftment of North Karnataka region by imparting quality education in several fields. Presently, under the progressive and spectacular chairmanship of Dr. Prabhakar Kore sir, our society has emerged as a giant educational organization. Our college, Raja Lakhamgowda Science Institute Autonomous Belgavi, established in the year 1935, is one among them. Our degree section in science was inaugurated in the year 1944 by Sir C.V. Raman, the Nobel laureate. We are accredited thrice by NAC at A grade and are an autonomous institute since the academic year 2013. We offer 2 UG programs, BSc and BCA, with different certificate courses. We also offer 3 PG programs, MSc Physics, MSc Chemistry, and MSc Mathematics. Current year, we have also adopted CBCS system. We strive to achieve our goals, mainly focusing on the quality of higher education and in preparing the students to face the global challenges successfully. We are all aware that in today's era, The power of new ideas, new thinking, and new innovation is greater than everything. This century is the age of information and the knowledge economy. And artificial intelligence and machine learning are the buzzing technologies of the market. Their significance peaked, no doubt, in 2020 and is gaining a lot of importance in the society, and we are expecting much more in the upcoming years. From cars, smartphones, airplanes, consumer applications, and even medical equipment, the impact of artificial intelligence is just changing the world around us. The ability of machines to demonstrate advanced cognitive skills in taking decisions, learn and perceive the environment, predict certain behaviors, and process written or spoken languages, among other skills, makes this discipline of paramount importance in today's world. Even if you look at the corona virus pandemic, even that has accelerated the adoption of this advanced concept where artificial intelligence and machine learning are key components and its major drivers. Although AI is changing the world for the better in many applications, it also comes with its challenges. There is no doubt that artificial intelligence and machine learning are rapidly changing our world. In this context, our college has organized today's webinar. The scope of artificial intelligence and machine learning is beyond our thinking, but our expert speaker, our alumnus of today's event, he is going to, Sri Ashok Magdum, Director R&D, Mobile Network Solutions, Yana Solutions, San Jose, California, will enlighten us and will share his ideas about recent trends with respect to AI and machine learnings and its applications. Sir, on behalf of our management, all the participants, entire faculty and student community, and my own behalf, I welcome you to the today's national webinar, and also thank you for accepting our invitation to grace this occasion. I extend a warm and hearty welcome to all the esteemed participants of the webinar. Hearty welcome to the esteemed members of management. I also welcome Professor Nanjapnar, Life Member and Member Secretary of KLE, Dr. Satisha, MP, IQAC and Coordinator, and Life Member, Member Secretary of KLE to the webinar. Welcome to the entire organizing team, all my staff and students. Friends, at the end, I would like to say in the coming years, I'm sure that these trends will play a major role in transforming our lives. They will bring more innovations to the table and open the new doors of opportunities. So I request all of you to make the best use of this webinar. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you so much, madam. Now I request Head of the Department of Computer Science, Srimati P.C. Kamath, madam, to introduce our today's resource person. Over to you, ma'am.
Good morning to one and all. It gives me an immense pleasure to introduce the resource person of today's international webinar, Sri Ashok Magdum sir, Director R&D Mobile Network Solution, ANA Solution, San Jose, California, United States of America. Sir has completed his early schooling in Sardar School and BK Model High School. Sir has completed his PUC in our prestigious institution, KLE's RL PU College. Then he completed engineering from Gokte Institute of Technology, Belagavi, Karnataka. Later, he completed his MTech from IIT Bombay and Master of Business Administration, Lake Forest School of Management, Chicago, IL. He has earned certificate in his name like AI and Medical Diagnosis, Deep Learning AI, and postgraduate program in Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning, University of Texas at Austin. We have met us a passionate engineering professional who has had a core experience in the area of telecommunication, healthcare, IoT, cloud services, and real-time embedded software applications. Sir has quite extra in a blend of hands-on, technical and agile-based project skills. He in development high quality products both as an individual contributor and product owner. He is successful in achieving things under the pressure as he is able to add value to cross-functional global terms with his immense contributions. He has got approved United States and European patents for research work at his company, which is really commendable. The major technology stack and software tools used are Sprint and Agile and management tools, open source framework, programming languages, web technologies, operating system and built tools, etc. Technical consultant for Athletic Foundation of Asia, Sir is architect of online doctor consultations. Here, platform used is Jitsi Meet. Biotechnology Incorporated real-time PCR and qPCR solutions for DNA detection and quantifications. Sir has been a software lead consultation to develop new software feature for this application to detect DNA and quantifications. Healthcare 365 Incorporated. Sir has worked on the development and integration of patient EMR system and wireless-based medical devices. Here he is technical lead on part-time basis. Then as a senior engineer, he lead distributed voice server application for Cisco Unified Communications, where he was spearhead to develop web services and other technical accomplishment to his name. He was also a for consultant GE Healthcare and Healthcare Solutions. He was senior engineer in Dialogic Incorporate Samberg IL, which provides multimedia and video gateways and solutions for mobile video applications. Finally, other companies Sir was associated with are NMS Communication, Samberg IL, Pelica, Boston MA, Listen Technology, Naperville IL, MCI Communication, Cedar Rapids IA, HP Software Operations, Bangalore, India. Presently, he is the principal software engineer, technical lead, R&D Mobile Network Solution, Yana Solutions, San Jose, California, United States of America. We are lucky to have such a personality with us as he spared his valuable time to interact with his widespread knowledge. With these few words, I present before you all Shri Ashok Magdum sir. Behalf of our KLE Parivar, I heartily welcome you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, madam. Now I request our today's resource person, Shri Ashok Magdum sir, to take over the session. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's my immense pleasure. And then, I mean, it's really, exciting moment for me because I'm one of the students, I think, back, I don't remember the professors I was interacting with and, the kind of, activities we were doing at the RLS college. So it's my, it's an immense pleasure today to present, myself and present, a topic which is emerging as Principal Madam mentioned. So if you don't mind, could you please, make me a host so that I can share my screen? Oh, okay, I can see that. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Great. Okay, without further ado, I'll just start, the topic on machine learning, artificial intelligence, and data science in general. Actually, these are like, three main topics we hear everywhere. I want to just, go over high level overview and then, basically try to cover, some of the aspects that we see. And then, basically, we hear these buzzwords everywhere, but what exactly those words are, how they are being used, and how the engineers or professionals who are getting trained in these areas are performing in the field. Okay, so let's dive into some of these, topics as such. So basically, the agenda that I would be covering in this whole session would be, mainly on machine learning. What do you mean by machine learning? What exactly is that? What is artificial intelligence? What is data science? So we see, most of these three words are being, switched around, and then people get confused about, these words, and they don't know what exactly each area is being, tackled in the field. And then we'll just, try to go over, some basics, like a mindset, what kind of mindset a person should have when a person is interested in any of these topics, or, if the person wants to dive into these, topics. And then there are some tools available. Of course, everything circles around, the programming and tools. And then, of course, if someone wants to basically work in these areas, they should have a basic mathematics, fundamentals should be clear, and they should have some business acumen. That is one other thing we always, look at. And then later we'll try to see what are the applications and then current trends. And then if someone is looking to work in these areas, how do they really get the hands on, and then, how they can start working on, these areas. And if anyone has any questions, please stop me. I'm assuming, you'll be taking some comments and questions online as well. So just stop me, and then, I'll try to make it a little bit interactive as well later on as we go along, with these topics. Okay, so what is machine learning? At the top, I just put this as a data is gold. Again, without data, all these, the tools or whatever the buzzwords that we hear, right, they are useless. If you don't have the data, and if you don't have, I would say, accumulation of, data, which can be basically, I would say, even if we have the data, it doesn't mean that, we can directly use that data and then, come up with some modeling or, the predictions as such. So the data has to go through a certain stages. The stage could be, you have to prepare the data as such. You have the data, you have to look at the data itself. And, there are other aspects like, many people talk about, we are applying machine learning and AI. Okay, so without even knowing what exactly they are doing, they just talk about the data, and then they talk about, the kind of, the solution they are looking at, or the kind of problem they are trying to solve. Okay, so I would say, if we want to just, know anything about these topics, first of all, we need to understand what exactly these individual areas do, actually. We need to understand what is that exactly. So when I say machine learning, we know, the machines are around, like, again, I'd say, how many years, when I started my career, we started with the punch cards as such, and then later on, we had one, the large, the vacuum, I don't know how many of you know now, actually, we used to deal with, like a monitor, huge monitors, and then we used to sit and then type one word, like 2 or 3 minutes. It used to take like 2 or 3 minutes to type a word or sentences, and then do some kind of a computation with that machine. So now things have changed over a period of time. At least I can say in last 10 years, or maybe maybe around 15 years, things have changed in such a way that we have like a lot of computation power, and we have like a cloud-based infrastructure, and then we have so many sensors and IoT devices around us. We are surrounded with I would say data, information, and we don't know how they are getting correlated, and then how we are making sense out of each piece of the data that we are seeing actually. So again, as I said, first of all, the machine learning is part of the whole data science model. The data science is a broader a concept. The part of the data science, we have this machine learning and then the artificial intelligence. Again, when I say machine learning, it basically provides a tool to model and then come up with a certain pattern of the data. So when I say pattern of data, so essentially we just say we feed in some data, and then you look at the patterns, or sometimes we may have to do some statistical calculations around the data, and then come up with some correlations between the two. I would say we generally in the data science world we call it as a features, but I can just say two fields as such. If you have certain data with different features, saying, well, I mean, I can give an example of that. Say in a school or a college, you have a number of students getting admitted to a certain specialization or a streamline. In that specialization, so essentially if you want to admit a student, the student has to satisfy certain criteria. Okay, so the criteria could be different things. It could be his GPA, or the score, the previous the degree score, or whatever the kind of work he's been doing in the field, or some kind of a volunteer or extracurricular activities. There are so many criteria that you apply in order to select a student for a particular specialization. So when I say these are different criteria, or the different aspects, those are all called features in the machine learning world actually. So and then basically you just summarize a certain pattern, and then you just calculate basically how these different features are correlated, and then come up with some precise way of presenting that data. And essentially the machine learning provides a platform to build a model, and then once you have the model, okay, the kind of the outcome that you're looking at, those data aspects or a pattern can be presented in a way, okay, this is the insight I can gather from a particular model. And then the business people, they look at that insights, whatever insights that we provide. Okay, we can just see that these are the kinds of the students who can be admitted to certain streamline or a specialization. And if we admit this type of students, then we are going to get this kind of a outcome at the end of the whatever the specialization those students have to go through. So those are the kinds of things we can get out of the machine learning models. So essentially the machine learning model, it just churns the data, and then it comes up with certain pattern, and then presents that in a useful way, I would say. I think you can see my screen, right? Whatever the PowerPoint presentation that I'm presenting.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, so I'm sorry, you just interrupt me if I'm going too fast or slow, we can just, basically adjust, the way we would like to, so artificial intelligence, is just like, I would say, extension of machine learning, I would say, machine learning, it just, gives you an insight, but, ultimately what we are interested in is, is making decisions, and taking action based on the kind of, the pattern that we see, and then we need to basically act on, so that is, I would say, essence of artificial intelligence. So essentially, again, if you look at the way we operate, in a normal sense, in a day-to-day activities, so we just have some thoughts, and again, you all people know, say whenever you are going through certain education program or certain studies, you just basically have a certain plan or a goal for I mean, again it all depends on whether it's an achievable goal, or it could be you have a overconfidence over whatever the goals that you're going to have. That's a different aspect, but we all go through a certain thought process, and then basically we just learn, and try to gain some experience while learning that, and then we try to solve the problems in our day-to-day activities. The outcome is a different thing, but we try to basically apply our intelligence and then the thought process, and we go through certain learning process and then do the problem solving. So similarly, we are asking the machines to do certain aspects of human, the behavior as such. We just say, okay, this is how I look at this data that is being provided as an input, and this is how I train, and then we just try to test that and then see how well we can perform in a field. So that is how the machine learning and artificial intelligence, they basically coordinate each other, and then you have an outcome, whatever that you are trying to achieve at. The artificial intelligence may not be done through the machine. Sometimes it is up to the businesses, or the business owners, whoever is looking at the certain problem, and then whatever the kind of the goal that they're trying to achieve, they could be the intelligence player, I would say. It may not be the artificial intelligence as such, but it could be the intelligence played by the owners of the final the data insights that they're going to collect at. So essentially it's a combination of machine learning and the intelligence that's going to play a role here. But as we see around us, the many devices are basically doing certain aspects of the intelligence. So that's the reason this artificial world is going to be it's going to be a major role everywhere that you see. So certain machines are making certain decision making, and based on that they provide certain insights, and then they say, okay, this is the action that needs to be taken in the field. So I'll give you some examples as we move along, but I think I'm just trying to make a point here. The intelligence may not be a machine driven, it could be a human driven as well. Any questions so far? Anything? Say, I just let me know if you have any questions, or if you have any comments from anyone. I'm just happy to answer before I move forward. Okay, so the data science is a broader sense of the all the different topics that we have been going through, machine learning, artificial intelligence, those are all part of the data science. When we hear someone, okay, I work as a data scientist, they may not be just looking at the machine learning and the artificial intelligence part of it. They would be looking at, the certain aspects, which are much more involved as far as, the domain expertise are concerned, understanding the problem statement. I always say, whenever we look at certain machine learning or artificial intelligence problem out there, someone says, okay, yeah, I have this problem to be solved, using machine learning and artificial intelligence. First thing that we ask is, okay, what is the problem statement? We need to clearly understand the problem statement. And sometimes, the engineers or professionals working on these kinds of problems, they may not be having, the domain expertise. They have to consult other, professionals who are deep involved in these, domains. For example, healthcare. If I'm looking at certain data, for example, I'm looking at, image, X-ray image data, that data may not make any sense to me. They say, okay, can you detect, right now everyone is looking at the COVID-19, people just bring, the X-ray images with, basically they say, okay, could you please tell me using your ML or AI model whether the X-ray that I'm seeing is positive or negative with the COVID-19. So what extent that person has infected, if it is really COVID positive. So that is a kind of things everywhere we see here. So if someone comes with that kind of an image data, if you don't have the domain expertise in healthcare, it is hard to proceed further with the kind of preparation that we are going to do with the data. So essentially, one should have the either domain knowledge or basically consult a professional who is having a deep domain expertise. So there is a word that I'm using here. It's called a ground truth that applies here. The ground truth is the one which tells the data scientist or the data science professional saying, okay, here is the data that we collected or that we have, and this is the data we are using for building a machine learning model, and how does it relate to what you see on the ground? That is called a ground truth. In case of the healthcare industry, I will always say radiologists, they are the ground truth. When someone presents, the X-ray image, and then, if a data scientist is going through the whole machine learning modeling, and then coming up with, some insights, the radiologists, would be the one who basically providing, the actual decision making, the whole aspect of that, the data that has been, analyzed. So this is one example. There are many examples. I know I might cover some of those, later on. But that's one thing you need to, understand. So essentially, if someone is looking at, the ML or the AI problem, they need to understand what exactly the statement, what exactly is the end goal that someone is trying to achieve. Okay, so I'll give you some examples of advertising, and nowadays, many people look at the Facebook, Instagram. There are so many social media sites. All these sites are, powered by machine learning and artificial intelligence. Nowadays, again, many of you might have noticed, how come, this is, I never, saw this earlier. Now, all of a sudden, I'm seeing these kinds of, advertisements which I was interested in, again, YouTube does a lot of that stuff nowadays, if you are visiting certain YouTube videos, essentially, when you try to, again, open YouTube, and then you try to see, okay, what all the videos I can, view. All of a sudden, you'll start seeing, based on your earlier browsing history, video browsing history, you'll start noticing some of those, related videos. So those are all, again, powered by machine learning and artificial intelligence. So essentially, what they are trying to do is they are trying to basically collect, the data behind the scenes. Say essentially, you might be thinking, okay, I'm browsing all these kinds of things, but behind the scenes, the machines are collecting the data. When I say data, it's what kind of, the browsing, behavior that one is going through. If I'm looking at certain like a political related, the videos. So essentially, the depending on how long I've been viewing, the political related videos on the kind of, the events I'm looking at. So essentially, these machines collect the data, analyze it, and scrutinize all the noise. And I'll come to that. They basically they distill all the the noise from the actual information, and then essentially work through the model analysis, and then provide the the real insights. Okay, this person is viewing such data for so long. Okay, the percentage of viewing viewable the behavior could be so much, like 90%. So they'll start providing those related videos. I mean, I'd say, when I say providing, they start presenting those videos to a person when someone opens the YouTube. So this is one simple example that we can see nowadays. Okay, so again, data science is a broader aspect that involves the problem statement, data exploration, analysis, and then you just draw the insights, as I mentioned. And again, as I mentioned, it also involves the ground truth. How are you going to associate with the ground truth? Whether we have a domain expert who can provide a real insight, and then make sure whatever that we analyze through the ML models, are they really worth the looking at, and then take a decision based on that. Okay. Okay, let's next, coming to the mindset. Again, if someone is interested in working in ML or AI or the data science areas, they should have some kind of an orientation. It's not for everyone. If someone is not very keen on looking at the data and making some observations and developing some curiosity, and then some people just I know there are some people who look at the data but they don't make any sense out of it. Some people, they try to explore the data and see what best I can get. Is there anything useful information I can get out of it? So those people can basically pursue these kinds of areas, I would say. And again, I'd say someone who has a grasp of good fundamentals, especially mathematics. I know in most of the computer science and the mathematics and the statistics related, the students, they are much more involved, and they always look for certain areas to deal with. I think the data science in general would be a very good area for those kinds of professionals or students, I would say. And of course, for computer science students, they always go through some or the other high-level programming language. I know earlier when we were going through our basic studies or engineering studies, or we were looking at like a C, Pascal, Fortran, and things like that. Nowadays, many people look at so many languages, but for data science in particular, Python is the one which is being popular, and that's being used a lot, I would say. It's completely absorbed these domains, I would say, the data science domains. And of course, someone who can network with others. Generally, this requires networking with domain experts. It's not, you can't just work in a silo. You can't just say, okay, I have this data, I can just sit and then do some cleaning, exploration, and then I can go through the models. So that is not the way these areas would be dealt with. You need to just basically work with domain experts. Okay, and then you need to have a continuous I would say networking, and then have some regular conversations with them, and then exchange the kind of insights that you are trying to explore from the data that you are looking at. Okay, and then again, I would say ask more questions, have more clarity on the business problem. Unless until you have clarity on the business problem, you can't just deal with the data. Okay, so and then again, so even though you basically apply certain model, or you just come up with a good model, and you feel that okay, that is working, and that provides very good insight on certain business problem that you're trying to solve, but still we need to reinforce the learning aspect of it. You may have to go back to the table and then say, okay, oh, this is providing this data. Okay, whether it is, I mean, the experts might say, okay, the kind of correlation that you have done with the different features, as I mentioned, the different aspects of the business problem, right? So the domain experts might say, this data might not correlate with this feature. So you might have to go back and then analyze that, and then you have to basically support the insights that you have with the pattern that you're going to come up with, and the kind of predictions that you're going to have. Okay. Okay, I just pause for a moment. Any questions we have, or we are taking the questions at the very end?
Yes, sir. Questions from the participants will be picked at the interactive session, sir.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so again, let's look at the basics. I mean, again, I just covered some of the aspects of it already, but as I mentioned earlier, data contains noise. When I say noise, again, you take any kind of a data, so let's say I'll just take a very simple example of Facebook. From the Facebook users, if you are trying to, basically come up with some insight, you want to apply certain machine learning algorithm or a model, and then you want to just come up with certain insight based on the Facebook users. The Facebook users may not be real ones. You might have some fake users, or you might find some duplicate users. Different people have different kinds of behavior. They want to just basically register themselves on a Facebook to get some kind of a data out of it. Once they complete that, they may not be active for a long time. So if you are trying to look at certain behavior, or certain insights, you're trying to collect certain insights, you may have to look at the data as a collection of information, useful information, plus the noise. Okay, so the challenge is how do you identify that information, the actual content as such. How do you basically filter out all the noise? Okay, that is the challenge. I would say most of these machine learning and artificial intelligence, the process or the stages, would involve like 50 to 80% of, I mean, nowadays everyone is saying 80%. Earlier, we used to say at least 50 to 60% we have to spend on data cleaning and data analysis. We call it as an exploratory data analysis. It's called, normally it is called as EDA. We used to spend a lot of time on that. I mean, even now we have to spend that, but there are certain aspects which changed during COVID pandemic. We'll look at that a little bit later on. But that's usually that is the case. You need to spend a lot of time in analyzing the data. I'll show you one example, but I don't want to just get into those aspects. Maybe we can cover that in maybe in a future webinars. Again, as I mentioned, you need to just separate out the useful content from the noise, and then the machine learning usually uses what we call it as a train and test approach. So essentially the machine learning model uses the input data, whatever the data that we are providing. That data is going to be like applied as a training process. Essentially it keeps reading the data. It just trains itself. When I say trains itself, it's basically it tries to collect more insights based on the kind of behavior you are trying to look at. We call it as a correlation and the features. Okay, this is what I'm looking at, and these are the kinds of correlations that we have between different features. So then based on that, the machine learning model will try to train and then test. It's like a back and forth. It just it goes back and say, okay, I just got this kind of the feedback out of it. Is it okay? Then you just the model itself will just say, okay, this is the kind of behavior we're looking at. So go and then train more, and basically you feed in more data. That data basically provides more insights, and based on that you do a testing. Okay, so that's the kind of approach these machine learning models do actually. But in case of machine learning, there are different types of models that we see. I'll just cover that a little bit, but some of them just go deep into the training and the testing approach. Especially in the case of the image processing or a natural language processing. Okay, so as we move along, with this basics, these are some of the stages that we generally go through in typical machine learning and artificial intelligence type of analysis, I would say. The first is the problem statement. As I've been telling, the problem statement is very, very important in the early stage. If you miss that, then whatever the data analysis or whatever the model that you are going to apply, it's not going to work. Again, you have to come back and redo the whole thing. So essentially, the problem statement, what exactly you're trying to solve. In case of a COVID-19, okay, where the first thing you say, what is the the patient's first thing what they say, okay, what is the penetration of this COVID? If the patient has been detected COVID positive, what is the penetration of this virus within the lungs tissues? So that's the kind of things they are usually the most of these clinicians or the doctors look at, right? So the problem statement is very, very important. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to bring up this COVID-19 because it's all relevant, nowadays, everyone is talking about COVID, and then everyone is talking about, what kind of, the treatments are available, what kind of, things are, how do you know, there's so many things going on around this, right? So I thought I'll just bring up that, so there are so many other examples, I'll try to quote those examples, as we move along. So the next thing is data exploration. We call it as a EDA. EDA is the one which helps in doing, the data cleaning, coming up with, the correlations between the features. Maybe let me see whether I can quickly show one example. Okay, I think I had that. Yeah. I hope you are able to see these things clearly, right? No.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is one of the project which usually we try to present to someone who is trying to get into this area and then make their hands dirty. So essentially, this is like bank churn prediction.
Clear.
So, sorry. Okay. If someone has any questions, let me know. Okay.
No, sir, no.
Okay. So essentially, this is a kind of a project where, if the bank wants to know how long the customer is with that bank itself. For that, we have certain data. The data is kind of, okay, the customer ID, credit score, geography, like, gender, age, the tenor, how long that, the customer has been with that bank, and then the kind of a balance, the number of products they are using, the bank, whether the, the person has a credit card, is he an active member, what kind of salary he's earning, and how long he's with the bank, whether he's still with the bank or he's exited. This is the kind of data that we get. So what you see here, like a credit score, geography, gender, age, right? These are all, what I said, the different features, right? We try to look at how they correlated, So you have this data, certain like a customer ID. Customer ID is not relevant, it's kind of a noise for us. Even if you include this, it's not going to give any useful information if you are trying to, get an insight as to whether that person is still active or how long he's going to be staying with the bank, right? So, I mean, you can just filter that, the feature, you can say, or a column. In a real database terms, it's called a column. Okay, so again, we just go through all these processing. Okay, we look at the different aspects of this, and then, as I said, we come up with this correlation. We try to correlate between the different features of that. How are they correlated? Are they do we have some kind of a linear correlation, or is it something like a scattered correlation? Okay, so these are the kinds of things we analyze as a part of EDA. Okay, so again, as a part of this, the Python libraries provide many tools to analyze these kinds of data, and as we see here, we just come up with some kind of a heat map, which provides whether these different features have a positive correlation or a negative correlation, or it's a neutral. Those are the kinds of things we look at. Okay, so I mean, I just wanted to share this information just to get some idea about that, what we mean by data exploration. So as I said, we spend a lot of time on this data exploration most of the time, and then we try to identify outliers. In certain cases, some customers, in case of a bank customers I just mentioned, right? One project that I was just going through, with some customers, they just open the account and then they just leave, within few days of their, active account. Okay, so those are kind of an outliers. We may not consider those outliers. And sometimes what we do is, as we go through this data analysis and then look at the correlations, we include the noise, as well. That's called, overfitting. And then when we exclude it, we call it as, underfitting. Okay, these two are like, interleaved, so, but these are the, kinds of, the terminologies that we use, whether it's overfitting or underfitting, these are the things, we just analyze as a part of, the data exploration as such. And then once we prepare all the data, and once we just think that, okay, we have basically excluded the outliers and the noise, then, we feed that data to the machine learning model. And whatever the machine learning model that we're going to apply, that again depends on the type of problem that we solve, whether we want to just, do some kind of a classification, we want to know how many customers are staying active, the people who have a very good salary, or, the people who are, basically older people, or do we have any kind of a correlation with geography? Only in certain geography, you see a lot of people stay with a certain bank, right? And there is also one aspect I think I missed out. There is one feature which says, okay, the kind of service that bank is providing to the customers, right? So if the bank is providing a very good customer service, then probably, certain sector of the certain category of people, they try to stay with that bank. So those are the kinds of things, whether you want to do a like a classification type of a problem, you want to just categorize, the different kinds of, the population who are staying with that bank, or, some kind of, the accuracy you're trying to look at, okay, future trends, I would say, okay, in future, whether these kinds of, the customers are going to buy a credit card, are they going to just, apply for a credit card and then, go with that, credit card, so those are the kinds of things, the banks are using, whatever the data they have been collecting over a period of time, that data is being used by these, models, and then providing some useful insights. Okay, and then, and as I said, the next step would be the decision making. You have as I mentioned, depending on the problem that you are trying to solve, you make a decision. Okay, and then again, you say, okay, based on this, you take the action. Like, you just schedule, the customer agent calls. Again, those could be an automated kind of a system, or the customer agents would be presented with those insights, saying, okay, these are the customers we need to target on certain type of the problems that we have at hand. If you are trying to sell your credit cards, then you just present the insights. Okay, you target these kinds of the customers. They would be the potential customers who would be opting for the credit cards. Okay, so then once you go through certain decision making, you can deploy that in the field. When I say deploy that in the field, so all the machines that are deployed, and then the machines that are interfacing with the end customers or the end users, they would be basically seeing all the different types of advertising, or the kinds of the calls they would get from the customer agents. Essentially those users would be targeted. Okay, and then as I said, the presentation and subsequent actions. So as I said, once you deploy that, that would turn into a presentation, and then you just take subsequent actions. If something is not working, So, we thought that, based on our study of, ML and AI, we were, thinking these customers would basically, go for, the credit cards, but something happened, somehow it's not correlating what we are thinking. So you just go back and take, the actions again. It could be a counter actions, or just go back and analyze the machine learning and artificial intelligence, decisions making, whatever you did, right? So that is what I'm saying. You just study the outcome, reinforce the ML model and algorithm, and then go through the same process of train and test approach. Okay, so this is a new thing what we are seeing nowadays. And again, all these new again, the optimization and then tuning. There is another thing, is a tuning. These are the new aspects that we may have to analyze a little bit more, and then see how well we can adapt to these new things that we are seeing in the field, and then adjust our machine learning and the AI models that we have been working with for so many years. When I say optimization, like again, especially in US and UK, what they are doing currently is with the COVID situation. So initially they were thinking, we have a CDC, that's a Center for Disease Control. So that is predicting certain models based on whatever the data they're getting it. But in the field, they are seeing different kinds of situations based on the optimizations the individual hospitals making. When I say optimization, they are trying to work through all these ML and AI models and trying to optimize their resource handling. When I say resource handling, whether they have to align the certain the transportation, or they have to align the beds, the available beds, or align their oxygen availability. Those are the kinds of things. There are all those the different kinds of aspects of or the whole the process that is involved in managing the COVID-19 patients. All those things are tied to this machine learning and the artificial intelligence models here. And then based on that, they are trying to analyze the data and see how they can optimize and tune their the working of the process. Okay, this is one example. I'm just saying, now they are also trying to figure out, okay, what is the mortality rate? Based on the mortality rate, can we do something? Initially they were predicting, the more number of people are going to die. Now it's the whole thing is coming down because of the process change. So those are the kinds of things that are happening around the ML and AI. Okay, so this is just an example. Okay, so hold on, something happened. Okay. Okay, sorry about that. I may have to just, there is some technical issue here. Just give me 1 minute. I want to just go back. Anyway, I think I'll just with this. I don't see all the other information here. Oh, okay, I see that. Okay. Okay, so coming to the next aspect of machine learning and AI, there are a few technologies which are widely used and available, and then many companies are working on different aspects of these tools, and they are just improving everything around ML and AI. So as I mentioned earlier, Python is the one which is being used widely nowadays, and then it's popular among ML and AI professionals. And then there are some tools for called NumPy, Pandas. I just showed you one example. So in the example, essentially we are using NumPy and Pandas, and then there's for plotting all the different kinds of correlations we use, Matplotlib and Seaborn. And then Google, all these big companies, they have come up with their own versions of these tools. There's a tool called TensorFlow, which makes the whole the process, the stages I showed you earlier. Those stages, like a streamlined, and then some of them are already automated. You can just feed in the data and then look for the final insights. You may have to still go back and then look at the insights and then take a decision based on that. But still, these tools like a TensorFlow, Keras, they automate certain the whole the processes that we perform around the ML and AI. And then Amazon comes up. Basically, all these companies they have their own tools, and then Amazon comes up with something called a SageMaker. They recently improved this tool, and they are claiming that you don't have to do anything. You just feed the data or provide the raw data. We'll take care of the whole process. So there are many tools. Again, it all depends on the kind of problem that you're trying to solve, and whether you can afford to subscribe or purchase these kinds of tools. This all depends on that. There are many open source technologies. You could use some of these open source technologies to just have some kind of a hands-on or a feel of the whole the process. Okay, so these are like machine learning models which are popular, and these models have been tried out in the field. There are many research, many papers on these the models, and wherever you go, these are the areas where employers are looking for. Okay, do you have a deep knowledge on any of these models, and do you have a domain expertise in any of the industries, and then whether you can apply these ML models. So one is like a supervised learning. When I say supervised learning, I'll not go deep into these different kinds of models, but I'll just briefly mention, and we can just look for more information in future webinars. So in supervised learning, essentially you have the input and what is the desired outcome. Okay, so when I say that in most of these the classifications, you want to just classify what whether it's maybe let's take an example of sentiments. You see all these comments on YouTube or Instagram based on the kind of a post that someone has already published. Okay, so if you want to just categorize whether it's neutral or whether it's a positive or negative, you could just use a supervised learning. You don't have to just you don't have to worry about that. You already know what kind of an outcome you're looking for. In some cases, you also see image processing. You just you want to look for certain type of a problem. I would say in case of an orthopedics related issue, just usually they look for whether the person has osteoarthritis or not. We can just even though they might be having different stages, but still you can just give a preliminary the insight saying, okay, this person has an osteoarthritis or not. That's that you can detect using the supervised learning. So the next one is unsupervised learning. So this is mainly used for the classification or categorical outcome. You don't know what exactly you basically have some broader classification. Okay, so that may not be right, but you just still you classify, and then later, based on the whatever the outcome you're looking for, you can further dive deep into the the data and the insights, and you can just train the models and do more testing. Okay, so then the next thing is a deep learning. So that is where most of the the advanced I mean, I would say brains are getting into the most of the people they try to use this neural networks, especially in case of an image processing. Again, I'll show you one video. I mean, I'm not able to play the whole thing, but what exactly happens in the deep learning is you have to dissect the whole image into a different pixels at the pixel level and figure out what exactly you're trying to gather, what is the behavior of a certain image. Okay, so especially in the driverless cars or vehicles, they use the image, the video frames collected from different videos, I mean camera sensors, and the ML machine that is looking at all these different image frames, they basically use the neural networks. Okay, so that is that we call it as a deep learning. Okay, so that's it's, I mean, I would say that's going to be the future. Everywhere people are using these neural networks, especially in case of robotics, in case of image processing, in certain areas of natural language processing, speech recognition. Everywhere the neural networks are being used wherever we need to dissect the certain aspect of the image or whatever the content that we are looking at. Okay, and again the other the technology that's being used is the computer vision. Again, computer vision comes with its own type of the deep neural network models. So that has again its own flavor of the models, and then the insights based on the kind of images that are being analyzed. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, if we look at the business acumen side of it, so essentially someone who wants to be in this area, they should have an interest in learning and developing the domain knowledge. So it won't just happen overnight. It has its own process, and then you have to go through that the kind of learning and experience. So, and again, as I mentioned, if someone who is new to this area, they can work with domain expertise and then try to gather more information on the data that they are dealing with. Okay, so and then and of course the business leaders, they know what they are trying to look at from the corporate or the kind of the problem they're trying to solve. It could be a small business. Nowadays I know many businesses are struggling. They're trying to look at their revival process, or how do they get out of this the whatever the debt that they are going through, that they might be having right now. So and as we know, the whole world is moving towards digital. When I say digital, it's like collecting the data. Everyone is collecting the data, either in the foreground or a background. I'll just always use that word, foreground in the sense you basically, it's visible to you. Okay, this is the kind of data I'm collecting, but behind the scenes, the data is being collected. But people don't know how they can analyze that and then utilize that information to their business activities, and then revive, their business if they want to really do so, right? And a person should have some kind of, the observe, mindset. You need to say, okay, where can I, get some kind of an idea. Some people might have certain, a problem, but in certain cases, if someone is looking for certain kind of business development, if someone wants to innovate something and then come up with some good product, so they essentially those people focus more on observations. They have to do an observation, understand the burning problem, and see how they can solve with the help of data. Okay, and then of course, if someone is going through these kinds of problem solving, they should have some software knowledge. Without the software knowledge, or you might get to a certain level with the kind of knowledge you might be having, but if you have a software knowledge and experience, that's going to be a plus point here. And especially, I know this is being addressed to a BSc computer science students. They can always look for these kinds of areas as such. They can just say, okay, I have so much of software knowledge, and can I just do some learning as far as a Python and other types of the models that I just briefly covered earlier, and see whether I can just make my hands dirty in this area and get into some good domain. That's one other thing. Those kinds of professionals or the students can look at. Okay, so ultimately, even though these tools are available, you have a huge data, you might ask, okay, 10 years ago or 12 years ago or 20 years ago, people were talking about all these things, but why, why we are looking at, why we are hearing these buzzwords now? Okay, right? So that's, as I said, like 15, 20 years ago, we were just looking at the punch cards. We didn't have the kind of the computing power that we see now. Okay, so if you look at the electronics and the kind of chips that we are developing, they are very, very powerful. And then we have a kind of access, to a cloud infrastructure. I would say anyone can just launch an instance in a cloud and start working on this machine learning and artificial intelligence. There is, earlier, I know when we were studying, we were going through what we call it as a CPU. Now there is a term called GPU. GPU is much, much powerful than the CPU as such. So again, we have all this power in terms of computation, but does it make sense from a business aspect point of view? For a business owner, he might be having a limited resources in terms of finance or the kind of things he's doing. But if someone says, okay, you need to apply these kinds of the technologies and models, then you can just get more insight, and then you can penetrate in your business. If someone is trying to say that, the owner might not be having the answer to that, but he can definitely consult the person who has knowledge. So that is another area where the students, especially the BSc students, can just get into, they say, okay, yeah, if they just go through all these kinds of the tools and then have some good broader knowledge about this, they can provide the appropriate the consulting or the knowledge to the owners there that are looking for, some value proposition in their business. Okay. Okay, so again, I know this the topics, again started with ML and AI applications and trends. I just kept this at the very end, but I covered some of those, examples already. But as I mentioned earlier, you name it, we see it everywhere. Okay. Even a layman, who doesn't know anything about, the computer, or, I know many people use this mobile phones, right? They keep seeing, or, they see the WhatsApp messages, they see all these Facebook messages, they see all the videos on YouTube, right? They can just, feel it, they can sense and feel it. Okay, oh, this is what I know, but they don't know these terms, right? But they see that, okay, how come this is what I'd never thought that, this is the kind of information I could get, right? So all those things are happening nowadays, and then every tool is trying to use some, it may not be using these tools and technologies to a greater extent, but at least you can see the basic, as I said, supervised learning or unsupervised learning, right? Some of those things, you can easily apply and then provide some insights, right? So those are the things are being applied, everywhere. Okay. So whether it's a social media, advertising, marketing, nowadays, marketing is trying to use, this ML and AI so that they can target, the customers more precisely, and then in supply chain management, logistics. I know now the vaccines are being, distributed everywhere. So they are using ML and AI to just work through the logistics. Here I see around 80,000 pharmacies are being part of, even now there are many pharmacies are being added, right? They're all part of this, the whole supply chain management, right? So how do they do that? They do all these kinds of, management using ML and AI. That's all I can say. Whether you see it or not, that is being used everywhere. And again, as I mentioned, healthcare, education. In fact, your institute, of course, it's my institute as well, right? The institute can use, these tools in some way. They can just basically work through some of these tools and then see whether they can, predict whatever kind of a problem, the burning issue that you might be having, at hand. Okay, so and again, the BSc students can work on some of those projects, and then they can just get into these, the areas and help the institution itself. They're saying, okay, we can just take up some of these projects, and if management is having some burning issue, and then says, okay, can you guys do that with this type of, the technologies, so that is where you can use, these tools. Again, the industry that I'm working on, we are using with, the cybersecurity and government agencies. We basically look at the behavior of, different people, how they try to use, the networks, we call it the IP networks, and then what kind of, the browsing history those people have, and things like that. There are many more. I don't want to get into those things. We can just defer those things for the later webinars. So the hospitality, now is, tourism, transportation has been, all these areas have been, hit, big time, I would say. Now everyone is trying to recover. The air industry, is looking for some solutions, how they can improve the travel. So that is another area, I would say. Of course, many airlines are using that now. They're trying to provide, many promotions and providing some, discounts on the fares, and as well as, they're trying to target the kind of, population where they usually travel a lot, right? So they're trying to do many things using these tools, right? And then, of course, as you see nowadays, the self-driving vehicles, and of course, many cars and vehicles, they already have, many, devices which are being used, and then they basically apply an ML, in various factors, I would say. I mean, you take any car, even a basic car would have certain type of, the ML AI, the model in it, okay. Okay, so let's look at the trends. What's going to be the trend? I know the post-pandemic scenario is, is kind of, it's in a flux. Everyone is at crossroads. They're trying to figure out, how we can revive, or some people are, basically they shut down their businesses, and then they're looking at other opportunities. And we all have to face the digital world, whether you like it or not, we will have to do that. And the earlier is the better, I would say. In next 5 to 10 years, things are going to change in a way where everything would be moving towards, the AI and ML, So, and of course, the someone who has a knowledge and who is in the learning mode, then definitely they would benefit out of, all these kinds of, the new technologies that we see around us. Okay. And as I mentioned, again, many businesses are looking for their bottom line, revive their businesses, and they want to optimize resources for predictable outcomes, and they have different kinds of new challenges now with this post-pandemic scenarios, and of course, it's for someone like the student of BSc computer science, or the data science and things like that, so for them it's going to be an opportunity now. Okay, so again, we all have to adapt. We need to keep learning, and then we need to sensibly move around with all these technologies, and then provide some value addition or a value proposition to the businesses, and someone who is really looking for some good insights, and then expecting some consultations on all these kinds of the new technologies, I would say. Okay, so the couple of last slides where I'm saying, okay, how can I get started? I would say, I would say, I know most of these students who are going through BSc program, BSc in computer science or data science, even mathematics and other, streamline, students, they usually have all these fundamentals. They either have a good grasp of mathematics or computer science or programming. So if someone has that kind of basically looking for a good way to move around with these technologies, if you have that kind of mindset and attitude, then you can definitely get into these fields. Actually, just learn Python. Python is not a difficult language. It's like any English, like a language. You just learn that. Once you learn and you just get into all these, the tools, you learn, all the basics of ML models. they are basically around, mathematics. You don't have to have a deep knowledge of mathematics, but, you need to just have some basics of statistics, probability, some of these, the statistical models that usually we go through during our, the pre-university or, the graduate or undergraduate levels, right? So those are the kinds of, the concepts that we need to be cleared on, and then we need to engage with some projects. If you want to really get into this, you need to be working on some or the other, project. That is the the suggestion I give to everyone, whoever wants to be involved in this area. They have to just pick some projects, whether it's a small project or a big project. Just get into this area and then start learning all these technologies, and then start picking up some projects. Just make our hands dirty, that I would say. That is the final thing I would say. Just get into some or the other kind of analysis here. Okay. And then I've seen here the many students who are going through undergraduate and graduate. They always volunteer for work. They want to gain the experience. They just get involved with some hospitals or industries, or even small businesses, like any online e-commerce type of a business, right? So, and maybe in the supply chain management, some people, they are trying to deal with some package delivery, so they are looking for some professionals who are who can provide a kind of knowledge to improve their day-to-day activities. Okay, so I would say that is how someone can get started. Okay, I just want to play 1 minute video. I don't want to play a 9 minute. It's like a 9 minute video. This is again on a it's a driverless taxi. A company in China has launched, this a couple of months ago. Just, let's watch for a couple of minutes and then I'll end the session here.
Hello, welcome to Shenzhen, the Silicon Valley of China. Today, I'm going to take a ride with a completely driverless robot taxi driving on regular public roads. Let's go. And here it comes. The fully driverless robot taxi is making a U-turn to come and pick me up. As we can see, the AutoX self-driving system is completely integrated within the vehicle platform. And this is why I can put my luggage here without any problems. This is a level 4 and level 5 fully driverless robotaxi from AutoX, the leading self-driving car company in China. This is a Chrysler Pacifica minivan equipped with high-resolution cameras, high-resolution lidars, and long-range radars. Because it is a fully driverless vehicle, the car also has a surrounding blind spot perception system on each side of the car, including both wide-angle lidars and cameras. Here is the button to open the door.
你好，欢迎使用高速公路无人车，请您系好安全带，关闭车门，通过触摸屏进行操作。
Now I'm inside the self-driving car. The driver's seat is empty. The passenger seat is empty. The second and third rows are all empty. I'm in the car all by myself. This is so nice. Now I'm all buckled up, and I'm going to click the button to go.
请先关闭车门，再开始行程。
Okay, it's letting me close the door. I'm going to click this button, and the door will close.
车辆即将开始行驶，请做好并系紧安全带。
We have switched the gear from P to D, and the handbrake is off. Now we're driving completely driverlessly. I feel like the car's driving really stably, and I have a good feeling about this. And through the screen, I can actually see that there are some 3D models of nearby surroundings that can show me what the road looks like without having to look at the front window. Now we saw some pedestrians biking across, and now we're avoiding them. Safety, hygiene, privacy, you have it all in this car. By the way, AutoX's robotaxi is also the first fully self-driving car in the world that preserves the moonroof. You can open the sliding panel to see the sky. It feels so nice during winter to enjoy the sunshine. And you could also adjust the temperature from the AC panel right here.
Okay, I'm going to stop here. I mean, that is just a glimpse of, what it looks like, with ML and AI. So, and again, as I mentioned earlier, this driverless car is using image processing, deep learning, that's neural networks, and then the GPU is the one. It's a GPU is basically processing all the images in parallel. It's like a what we call it as a multi-threading in a computer science terms. Okay, so I mean, that is just a glimpse. It's a 9 minutes video. I don't want to just play the whole video, but you get a glimpse of that, and you know how it's going to look like, in future. Everything around us will be, powered by in some form of ML and AI. That's what I would say. Okay, I would end my session here. So please let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir. The session was very interesting and informative with the valuable slides with lots of information about machine learning and artificial intelligence, which was for sure helpful for all the participants to understand the same in depth. Sir detailed about machine learning, artificial intelligence, data science, basics such as mindset and tools, business acumen, application and trends by quoting beautiful examples, and finally, Sir briefed about how to get started with all by focusing on basic fundamentals and programming. Thank you so much, sir, for enlightening our participants by sharing your knowledge towards artificial intelligence and machine learning. We are literally very grateful for the time and effort you took to share your thoughts towards the same. Thank you once again for sparing your valuable time with us, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for
thanks a lot, sir.
inviting me.
It was really wonderful.
Okay.
I just went through the entire session. It was a great learning for me. Thanks a lot.
Oh, thank you, madam. Thank you.
Do visit
Thank
our
you.
college when you come
Yeah,
down.
definitely. Definitely, I'll visit the college.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
this
Thank you
time.
so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Madam.
Great
Thank
learning.
you. You have any questions?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Moving on with an interactive session, there are a few questions by the participants, sir. I like to put forth them.
Yeah, sure.
The question from Hakeem Suhail is, does machine learning or artificial intelligence is used in blockchain development and big data technology?
Yes, definitely. See, again, blockchain, definitely. The big data, again, I want to just cover this aspect of big data. See, many people confuse with the big data, with, ML and AI. Big data is basically a data science, part of the data science. Okay, so when we say big data, you have a larger set of data, So, and generally what happens is when the large set of data is presented to ML, it goes through a certain process called a pipeline. The data is coming in, and then there is another a set of engineers, we call it the data engineers, they prepare the large set of data, and then they just, split that into a smaller chunks of data. Okay, so some of those things have been already automated, but generally what happens is the data engineers work on that. So big data is part of the data science. It's not a ML or the AI concept as such.
Okay, sir. The next question from Novelin Lima is, what are the tools for image classification?
Okay, so we use different tools. One is the OpenCV. That's an open source tool that is available, and you can just download that OpenCV on your system and start exploring it. And then there are many licensed versions of these OpenCV tools. Again, the Google has its own version of the OpenCV, and Amazon has come up with its own version. So OpenCV is the one. It's part of the computer vision. Okay.
Okay, sir. There's the other question from Gamini. She's asking that how to begin with ML, machine learning.
Okay. So as I mentioned earlier in one of the slides, if you have a strong fundamentals background in mathematics, statistics, you can start learning Python. Python is one of the easiest languages I've seen, and then you can get into all these data analysis tools. As I mentioned, NumPy, Pandas, these are the tools that you can start with. And once you get familiar with all these tools, then you can just look at supervised or unsupervised learning, and then there are different other modules, models that you can look at.
Okay, sir. There is one more question from Vivek Ram. He's asking that where can we start off with ML models, and are there any good course which you can recommend?
Okay, so there are many good courses. One is deeplearning.ai. Is a professor from Stanford who offers many courses. So one of the course that I did on AI for medicine, that's again offered by deeplearning.ai. That's I think it's part of the Coursera online learning platform. And there's another course which I went through, was really good. It helped me a lot. That's from University of Texas, and they have a I think partnership with an institute called Great Learning in India. So that's again another good course,
What is artificial intelligence neural network?
Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, the neural network is not just going through the input data and predict the insights. Essentially the neural networks, they try to analyze the data at the pixel level, especially in image processing. So the neural networks go through the frame by frame in an image, and then provide the insights on the edges of an image, or the kind of contrast that you have, and the kind of colors that you see in a particular part of the frame or an image. So that's being analyzed by neural networks.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. I hope the questions were clear for the participants. Now I request convener SP Hiremat Madam to propose vote of thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Sushma Hiremat, Faculty of Department of Computer Science, KLE's RL Science Institute. It gives me an immense pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks for the today's international webinar on artificial intelligence and machine learning, emerging trends and applications. I would like to thank our resource person, Shri Ashok Magdum sir, for presenting and enlightening us with their knowledge. I hope that today's webinar was informative and helpful for the participants. I would also like to thank our beloved principal, Srimati Dr. J.S. Kaulekar Madam, for her guidance and enthusiastic support for organizing such an event. I also extend
Thank you,
my
madam.
thanks. Thank you, ma'am. I also extend my thanks to life member of KLE Institute, Professor S.J. Nanjapna sir, for their support. I would also like to thank IQAC coordinator, life member of KLE Institute, Dr. Satisha MP sir, for their support. We are thankful to Dr. Vinay Kumar N sir for handling the entire webinar being host. Our special thanks to Srimati Pooja S. Melvanki ma'am for their cooperation in the organization of this event. I thank the HOD and coordinator, Srimati Priyanka Kamath ma'am, and faculties of Department of Computer Science who work to make this event successful. Once again, I would like to thank Shri Ashok Magdum sir for taking out his precious time, all the HODs, faculty members, and participants for attending the webinar. The feedback link is sent in chat box. Please fill the form to get certificate. With these warm words, we move to the end of today's webinar. Thank you one and all.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Thank you,
Thanks,
sir.
yeah,
A
thank
great
you.
done. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate you all being here. Thanks again for joining us for today's international webinar. And I'm sure that you all have gained more information regarding artificial intelligence and machine learning. So here we declare the end of the webinar. Have a good day, everyone, and take care.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank you.
Thank
It's my immense pleasure.